Alright, so this is going to be our first video on Python. We are going to go through the process of downloading the install file for Python. We're going to run that install file to install Python. And then we're going to look at some resources we can use to learn how to use Python. Alright, so you won't learn much Python programming in this video, but you will get started with the foundation necessary for future videos where we will learn more programming concepts, specifically using the Python programming language. All right, so let's go ahead and bring up our web browser. I'm going to use Firefox. All right. And, you could just type in Python, or you can just go to python.org, www.python.org. You see this nice little menu bar here. We hover over downloads. I'm currently using Windows, and it gives me the download for the install file right here. All right, Python 3.7.0. So just realize we are using Python 3. There are two common versions, Python 2 and Python 3, and we will be using Python 3 in this video series. Right? Nothing against Python 2. It's just this is the new industry standard, and it's being used more and more. So this is what we're going to use. So you go ahead and find your appropriate install file, click on it. We're going to save it and pick a location. You see I already have it saved here, but we'll just save over it for the sake of the video. Yeah, sure, replace it. Right? It is, depending on your internet connection, it downloads pretty quickly. It's just less than 25 megabytes, pretty small. So then you go ahead and find it, right? I happen to know where I just saved it to. There it is. All right, so navigate around your file system. Pause this video if you need to, and navigate through your file system on your computer and find that install file. All right, so you should be presented with these options here when you double click on the Python install file. Install now is up here. You'll see down here is add Python 3.7 to path. We go ahead and check that box and then click install now. All right. There we go. All right, special thanks, blah, blah, blah. All right, just hit close down here. And you can close this window out. So if you're using Windows, come down here, start, scroll down for Python. Python, here it is. Look for Python 3.7, click on that. All right. And you'll be presented with these four options here. And we're going to go with idle, I-D-L-E, idle. All right. Click on it. And you're presented with this Python shell, right? Shell. What is this? What are we going to do here? What does this have to do with programming? All right, well, let's find out. Let's go back to our web browser. And now we're going to start learning how to use Python. We have it installed, right? Everything seems to be working fine, other than we don't know what to do with this yet. But things seem to be working fine, so that's good. So now let's hover over documentation, right? And let's go to, let's see, docs. The first one here, docs. Click on that. All right. Like I mentioned before, there are two general versions of Python, 2 point whatever and 3 point whatever, and we are dealing with 3 point whatever right now. Don't click on that right now. We're going to scroll down. Scroll down. We see Python 3.x resources. All right, 3.x resources. So we are currently at www.python.org/doc. Right. We got there by navigating to python.org, then hovering over documentation, clicking on docs. Here we are. Scroll down, Python 3.x resources, and we're going to click on tutorial here. The Python tutorial, blah, 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 blah. Right? A lot of stuff. We're going to come down to this table of contents here. All right, table of contents got a lot of stuff in there, and we're going to look at a lot of it over the course of the next several videos. But for this video, we are simply going to go to section 2. Specifically, we're going to go to 2.1.2, interactive mode. All right. Now, let's bring up idle again, this Python shell we had open before. All right, so we bring that back up here. All right. And you see that we are, let's shrink this a little bit, make room, shrink it a little bit more. All right. So we're at section 2.1.2 of this tutorial and the Python website. And this is talking about the interactive mode. All right. Well, what is the interactive mode? That's what we're doing right now in this shell. We're in the interactive mode in Python using idle. Okay. You see over here, looks very similar. Python 3.7, default, blah, blah, blah. All right, and then you go down and down and down, and you see these 3 greater than signs, right? 3 greater than signs. Here they are over here, 3 greater than signs. We are in the interactive mode in Python using the Python shell in idle. Okay. Now, here's the first example they're going to give us to play around with. And when we experiment with the examples given in the tutorials, first we will try just typing in exactly what they have. And then we will experiment with that, change things up a little bit, switch some things around, try out different values and things like that, right? So let's start off typing exactly what they have in here. Not copy and pasting, but typing, all right? The underscore world underscore is underscore flat. Space, equal sign, space, capital T, RUE, true. All right, before we go any further, right, there are a few things that are important to note here. All right, number 1, okay, casing is very important. Uppercase versus lowercase, right? Capital versus lowercase. And you will see why in the future, right? But just know right now, casing is very important. Right? Another thing that's important is white space. All right, white space. White space refers to anything like a new line, so hitting enter, that's white space. Hitting just typing in a space is a white space. Typing in a tab is white space. Right? White space is important, and we will see why again in future videos. And that's about it for now. What we have here, right, what we're actually doing with this one line here, is we are creating a variable called the world is flat. All right, so this is the name that we're giving to a variable. We're calling this variable the world is flat. And we are assigning it a value. That's what this space equal sign space does. It assigns a value, right? Whatever's on the right side of this equal sign is assigned to this variable. All right, so there's a value over here on the right side of the equal sign, that is assigned to the variable with this name to the left of the equal sign. Right? It's the variable name, the value that is being stored in that variable. This value here is called a Boolean value. It's true, right? Boolean is only true or false. This particular variable is being assigned the value true with a capital T, true. So we created a new variable called the world is flat, and we assigned it a value, the Boolean value true. And now you can hit enter. Okay. Now we could type the next line down here. All right, over here in the example in the tutorial. If the underscore world underscore is underscore flat, colon, enter. Okay, we'll pause here for a moment and look at this. We got three new things going on here. Number one, if. Okay, and you'll notice, right, we got some color coding going on here. Color coding. That just means, for one reason or another, these are special terms in the Python programming language. And the idle program giving us the Python shell here is nice enough to highlight those special words for us. All right. We'll talk more about those in the future, but just know that it's okay that they lit up with different colors here. It's okay that these are orange, even though these are green over here, right? Not a big deal, right? If space, the world is flat, colon, all right? This right here is the beginning of an if statement, right? The beginning of an if statement. And in particular, this is the conditional part of the if statement, meaning this is what's going to be evaluated or tested to see if it's true. So if this is true, if the stuff in here is true, and then we hit enter, which brought us down here, okay, you'll notice that this is indented. All right, indented. Python is pretty specific with its white space, and when you have a section of code that needs to be indented, whether it's in an if statement or some other area where it would have to be indented, it must be indented by 4 spaces. Now again, this shell here, this idle, the Python interpreter, right, is fancy enough and nice enough for us that when it sees this semicolon, or this colon here, sorry, not semicolon, colon, followed by hitting enter, it assumes correctly that we need to indent by 4 spaces. So it automatically indents by 4 spaces for us. Okay, this is just part of the Python syntax that is taken care of for us by the interpreter here. All right, and then let's continue on. All right, our next line that we're going to type starting right here, right where the cursor brought us here. All right, print, open parentheses, quote, be careful not to fall off, exclamation, quote, and parentheses. Okay, and that's just followed by hitting enter once and enter again. So hit enter twice. Now let's talk about what happened here. Before we get to this, let's talk about this. All right, and before we talk about this, let's get a refresher on this right here. If the world is flat, all right, the way if statements work is as follows. If the conditional part of the if statement is true, then what's inside, right, following the colon and the 4 spaces indenting here, whatever's down here will be run or executed, right? This will be done. This will be executed. This will be run if the conditional part of the if statement is true. Okay? And since the value that is placed inside this variable is in fact the true Boolean value, this is true. Therefore, this will be done. All right, we will print. This is a special function inside Python. All right, print, special function inside Python. What does it do? Well, it takes whatever's inside the parentheses here and prints it out to the terminal for us, or shell. All right, terminal, shell, interpreter. For our purposes right now, those are all synonymous terms, right? So since this is true, this right here inside the print function's parentheses has been repeated back out to us, or echoed to us, or printed to the screen for us. Be careful not to fall off. All right? So, what have we learned? All right, we're gonna wrap it up, review what we've gone over in this video, and stay tuned for the next video, right? So we learned how to find the Python website, right? www.python.org. We hovered over download. We downloaded our necessary install file. We ran the install file to install Python. We then opened idle, which brings us to this Python interpreter that we've been using. We went back to the Python website, and instead of hovering over downloads, we hovered over documents. We clicked on docs, and we clicked on tutorial, and it brought us to here. We clicked on 2.1.2 to specifically get to this section, right over here, this section of the tutorial, just to begin looking at what it's like, right, to get a feel for what it's like to type in the Python programming language using some simple commands, using Python syntax. Right? Created a variable. We gave that variable a value, or we assigned a value to that variable. And then we used a simple if statement, right, to play with that variable. Since the variable is holding the Boolean value true, this conditional part of the if statement is true. Therefore, what's inside the if statement is executed or is run. And since this is a print command here, this print function, then whatever's inside here gets printed to the screen for us. All right. And that's about it for this video. Thank you for taking a look. Hopefully this helps you out a little bit and getting started with Python, making sure we're all on the same page. And this way for future videos, we can just pick up from here and continue at the same pace.